Our guest today on Careers is an excellent example of how to succeed in the retail industry. He began by operating a store in 1979 in a small kiosk at the Toronto Eaton Centre. Since then, he has guided Signor Angelo and Madame Angelo into a chain of more than 60 stores across Canada. Stay tuned for Careers. My name is Peter Wolfl, and welcome to Careers. Our guest today is Amin Jivraj. He is the founder and president of Signor Angelo and Madame Angelo, which is a chain of retail stores across Canada. Welcome to the show, Amin.
Thank you.
Amin, before getting into this business, what was your background? What did you do before actually getting into the retail industry?
So I have a very unusual background, Peter, and you'd never have thought that I was trained as an accountant. I spent 10 years as an accountant. I qualified as a chartered accountant in England, and I came over to Canada with Price Waterhouse, and it was about 4 years after I had come to Canada that I launched my first store.
About 4 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what really prompted you into even thinking about getting into this type of line?
Rather than talk about getting into this line, let me perhaps backtrack for a second and suggest to you as to what led me to want to go into business in the first place.
Okay.
Like many young people, I had a craving to be my own boss and wanted the financial rewards and wanted to succeed. And I felt that a job just did not allow me to do that. I wanted to run faster than my job would allow me. I wanted more flexibility. And most jobs that I held just would not allow me to do that. And it was this nagging feeling that I wanted to be an orchestra leader rather than just a second fiddle in an orchestra that finally pushed me over the crunch and said, let me just go and do it. Mm-hmm. In terms of now deciding what to do, that was a tough question. And I guess one thing led to another, whereby I realized out of personal experience that there was a niche in the marketplace that nobody seemed to be too interested in pursuing. Mm-hmm. And it came about from a personal experience that in looking for a pair of socks or some small item like a belt or a wallet, basically I had two choices. One would be a menswear store, and I discovered to my horror that the salespeople over there were more interested in selling me a suit than getting bogged down in a $3 pair of socks or a $5 pair of cufflinks. Department stores, of course, we all know the jokes about trying to shop at a department store. Gee, sir, it might be on the 6th floor in the shoes department. Oh, no, sir, it could be on the 2nd floor. Try in the hosiery department.
Get the runaround.
Absolutely, and nobody seemed to be wanting my business. So it suddenly dawned on me that there was this niche in the marketplace, I call them crumbs that nobody wanted, that surely if I grabbed those crumbs, I could make a nice loaf out of it.
Now, you thought about this when you were already in Canada, or when you were still
correct.
in England?
No, that was during my stay in Canada.
Okay. Now, once you thought about getting into the retail industry, how did you prepare yourself for that?
Once I had made the commitment that that was a market I wanted to pursue, and the decision was made in my mind, then it was relatively easy. The standard approaches of going to the library, picking up books, reading extensively, finding a part-time job, which I managed to find one at Holt Renfrew, and just learned the ropes over a 3 to 6 month period. And when the right opportunity came up at the Eaton Centre, I grabbed it.
Mm-hmm. How did you find out about an opportunity at the Eaton Centre?
Well, in those days when Eaton Centre was expanding, it was fairly public knowledge that it was expanding. Everybody knew about Eaton Centre. But the tough part was really trying to convince the landlords to give me a spot. Mm-hmm. Every landlord on whose door I knocked wanted to see my track history and wanted to see my records and wanted to see my other stores. Well, somebody had to give me a break. Fortunately, Cadillac Fairview, the owner of Eaton Center, saw some glimmer of my aspirations, and part of it was just simple persistence. I just kept phoning them and knocking on the doors, and I guess at some stage I must have become just a real nuisance. And that gave me my first foot in the door, so to speak.
Did you feel like you were taking much of a risk in trying to locate in the Toronto Eaton Centre? I imagine the rent must have been quite high.
Sure.
And did you do a lot of market research before actually making that move?
Peter, I'm one of those few people who feel that there is a time and place for market research. There are times that you've just got to do what your gut tells you. And in this instance, trained as I was as an accountant and being very analytical as I was,
Right.
this was one scenario where I just had this feeling that I was onto something okay, if not great. And I just barged into it, put whatever resources I had financially, and made just about enough ends meet to open up my first store. I went to friends, I borrowed money, I made all kinds of promises to borrow money. Fortunately, I came through and paid everybody back.
Was it called Signor Angelo right from day one?
Yes, it was.
How did you arrive at that name?
Well, one of the things that I had decided, Peter, was the accessory business. To distinguish myself from the competition and give the consumer a sense of something unique and different, I had to create a European flavor. And our merchandise was going to be European. And again, straight from the hip, the name Signor Angelo occurred to me as a name which gave an Italian flavor, a European flavor, and the Signor, of course, relates to the masculine gender. And that was just as simple as that. Interestingly enough, till today, I still get a lot of people who swear to me that they have met the real Angelo in Italy, that they know my boss, and I don't argue with them, but interesting.
So Angelo, is that a name you just picked out of the hat, or?
Absolutely. Out of the Yellow Pages, as a matter of fact.
Yellow Pages. Did you already have Madame Angelo in the back of your mind before starting Signor Angelo?
Be honest, no. When I launched my first store, that in itself was a very, very major achievement. The total store cost me $50,000. That was a lot of money, even in those days. Still is. And I didn't have that kind of money. I was newly arrived in the country. I came into the country with less than a quarter in my back pocket. And the jobs that I've had or had till then just was enough to put food on the table and get a decent set of luxurious things that one normally goes for. So I didn't have a lot of savings. And at that moment in time, opening just one store for a person with my background was a coup enough.
Right. Well, $50,000, did that include all the initial inventory as well as the changes in the premises?
Yes. Now, of course, that number has multiplied by 4 to open up a single store.
By 4?
Yeah. Today it cost us $200,000, which is a lot of money to open a store.
Sure.
I shudder to think that if I had to start all over again, how the heck would I do it?
Well, how did you even raise the $50,000 in those days?
I was very fortunate. I had made a lot of friends, saved a little bit of money. My community helped me immensely with loan guarantees, and I just scraped by. And then all I wanted at that stage was just one store and make it successful. Surely enough, after the first store was open and running fine, my next ambition was to run a chain store, which technically means 3 stores. So all I wanted, yes, and therefore all I ever wanted at that stage was now to be a chain store operator. And of course, once that goal was achieved, we set up another modest goal of a grandiose number of 25. Well, most of my friends thought I was crazy. How could a one-store operator who just barely opened 3 have these illusions of grandeur of opening 25 stores? But I just committed myself, made my people believe in me, gave everything I had to my business. People had confidence in me. They saw that I was committed to it. And suddenly, 3-4 years later, we had 25 stores.
Now, How do you finance it through investors, or do you use venture capitalists, or
Neither.
neither?
The temptation was there to do that, but I'm happy to say that it's been all internally generated profits. Yes, it was tough, but nothing worth doing comes easy. And
I see. Did you work in the store initially?
absolutely. There is nothing that goes on in the store that I have not done in my life or I cannot understand or relate to. I've vacuumed carpets, I've delivered merchandise to customers, I've taken abuse from customers, I've had people do all kinds of things to me. But hands-on experience is certainly one of the attributes I have, and that's why I understand my business so well.
What would you say was the hardest part of starting your first retail store?
Getting people to believe in me. No matter which way I turned, I just could not get people to automatically accept me for what I had, and perhaps rightfully so. Most people who lend you money or who give you an opportunity want some kind of a track record, and I guess I had to sell my aspirations and my ambitions intensely enough that they saw through that, and I was lucky enough I was able to do that. But that was a very difficult part, ranging from getting a bank to give me a loan, to the landlord wanting to or not wanting to give me a location, suppliers not believing in me and wanting money up front. So no matter which way I turned, there were obstacles.
Now, suppliers, I want to just touch on that for a moment, because before you even started your first store, surely you must have had some suppliers in mind.
Yes.
And you said you were importing from Europe?
That's correct.
So did you go over to Europe and do a little bit of a search before
I did,
starting
yes.
your
In
first
fact,
store?
I went to a lot of trade shows in Paris, in Germany, in Italy, and knocked on a lot of doors. Some were banged in my face, some were sympathetic. The nice thing is that those who were sympathetic with me when I was a one-store operator still are my suppliers, and we work on a handshake as we did then, and I'm as loyal to them as they were to me when I started. And that's very important to me.
Okay. Did you have to make a lot of sacrifices?
Yes,
starting up this
both
business?
personal and financial. Personal in that I am fortunate that I have a very understanding wife who agreed not to insist on seeing me as often as we would have liked to be together. I had a job on the side, my full-time job. I'd still
Sorry, is your wife involved in the business at all?
Now she is, but she wasn't when I first opened the store. Subsequent to that, I brought her into it, and she now does a wonderful job buying for our Madame Angelo division. But in those days, I couldn't afford to have both of us. We had to have the security of food on the table. And so she was the security. She worked away, and I toyed with the Angelo, which of course was not instant success. I had to work at it to refine it and perfect it, which we still haven't done it, but at least we've come a long way.
That's excellent. Well, we're going to have to take a short break now, Amin. When we return, we'll return with Amin Jivraj, the founder and president of Signor Angelo and Madame Angelo. Welcome back to Careers. Our guest today is Amin Jivraj. He is the president and founder of Signor Angelo and Madame Angelo. We were talking about Signor Angelo before. How did you start Madame Angelo?
Good question, Peter. It wasn't my idea, in all honesty. The women customers who shopped in our Signor Angelo store kept reminding us, wouldn't it be nice to have a store like this for their own selves? And thus the idea dawned on us that perhaps Madame Angelo should be conceived. And that's simple as that. There was, again, no market research done. It was just a gut feeling. And of course, right now we are playing with the idea of a Bambino Angelo, which is children's Angelo.
Excellent. How do you promote your stores?
One of the things that I believe in is that if you, and this was propounded by Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's Corporation, the acronym QSVT. And Ray suggested that if any business supplied quality product with superior customer service and offered customer with value for their money in a trusting environment, that business had to succeed. We as a corporation have stuck to just that. in all the 60 stores that we have opened and doing as much business as we are, we've never spent a penny on advertising. It's strictly word of mouth. I don't believe in advertising with due respect.
Although Ray Kroc does believe in
Ray Kroc now does, and I guess I may just graduate into that sphere. But at this moment in time, we don't.
What separates your stores from that of the competition? Obviously, this is a very competitive field.
No question, retail is probably the toughest field that you can ever get into, because there's so much competition and everybody is in the field. And yet we had to do something very, very tangible in differentiating ourselves. And we did that in many ways. Firstly, the uniqueness of our concept. We specialize strictly in accessories. We are not a clothing store. We don't sell shoes. We don't sell clothes. We are strictly accessories. So that in itself creates a uniqueness. Our merchandise is very, very carefully selected from Europe. You won't find our merchandise in every corner store. We have some fascinating examples of how we can be different, ranging from a gold-plated toothpick for the executive who has everything, to gold-tipped shoelaces. That's unique.
That's pretty extravagant.
I wouldn't say that. $25 for a gold-plated toothpick is not extravagant.
Wow. Well, your first goal was to just have one store. Then you wanted to have 3 so you could call it a chain. And then 25 stores. And now you're into franchising. Why franchising?
Peter, as we evolved, we realized that one of the reasons for our success was the superior customer service that we offered in our stores. And as we grew to a size, I felt that that service level would be diluted, because you can only expand it so much, and at some stage you'd want to give up because it's physically impossible. It was at that stage that it began to occur to me that perhaps franchising was the perfect solution, whereby the service level was extended to the customers, who are very important to us, and yet coincidentally there were more and more people joining our company who shared a similar dream to what I had. Mm-hmm. They wanted their own businesses. So franchising was the perfect solution, and today of the 60 franchisees that we have out there, many of them are ex-store managers. These are people who started at the shop floor level as part-time salespeople, moved up the ladder, and now they own their own businesses.
You have 60 stores now, and all of them are franchised?
Yes, sir. We are.
You don't have any company-owned stores?
Nope.
Oh, well, that's interesting. That's also different from McDonald's strategy. I think they have 25%.
Okay. I strongly believe that you can't do too many things at the same time. I stick to the knitting that I know, and right now the knitting that I know is franchising in a retail environment.
Great, great. Now, what do you offer the franchisee? What wins them over to join your team?
Very good question, because each and every franchisee who comes to us asks that question before they give us $200,000. And obviously they have to be convinced that what they will get from us is something that they're not likely to find on their own. One thing is, of course, they're piggybacking on a proven success story. They're buying into the volume buyings that we offer them. They are buying into expertise of site selection, lease negotiations, contracting for the stores, ongoing support. We are so committed to our franchise program that we will do everything we can to ensure the success of the franchisee. Obviously, we cannot guarantee, but we will do everything we possibly can to help that person grow.
Okay. How do you find a location? Do you actually go about finding locations, or do they?
You mean they
for the
as
new
franchisees?
franchisee?
No, we do.
Okay.
We as a company, we are now fortunate enough that the real estate development industry knows us so well for the business that we do, for the concept that we have, that most landlords will approach us. And we are in that fortunate position of being able to make demands on landlords for size, for rent, and for locationing within the mall. And an independent person just off the street, as I was 8 years ago, would have a very, very difficult time getting those kinds of breaks in that kind of location. So franchising to us is really a partnership of sorts, whereas the franchisee is able to run his own store, make a handsome profit, and yet in a reasonably secure environment.
Okay. Speaking of franchising, you mentioned the benefits. What are the costs? How much does it cost to have a Signor Angelo franchise?
The franchise fee is only $25,000. I'm sorry. The total package comes to $200,000. Most of that money goes into building those fabulous stores that we do. Our stores are very attractive. They are there for the long term, and consumers love it.
Is it the same thing for the Madame Angelo?
Yes.
Are there any benefits, one over the other? Do you make any recommendations for a particular area that they have either a Signor Angelo or a Madame
Obviously,
Angelo?
in making a decision as to who gets what, we talk to the franchisee or the potential franchisee and get a feeling as to what their likes and aspirations are. Some people are suited to one or the other. Many are ambidextrous and ambivalent. They will succeed in no matter what they do. And success does not have a gender.
Is it important that the owner of the franchise also actually physically work in the store?
That's mandatory. We do not welcome or nor are we interested in absentee owners or what we call investor types.
I see. What would you say are the key ingredients to being a successful franchisee of for your organization?
Okay. Firstly, we look for willingness to work hard. There are no easy, quick ways to succeed. So that is very, very important, and we look for qualities of willingness to work hard, perseverance, common sense, street smartness is all we ask for. One does not have to be a fashion model to succeed in a Madame Angelo. Those are trainable skills, and we are happy to train people.
Has it been worth it, all this effort that you've put in your
Very
opinion?
much so. I won't have it any other way.
If you were to do it again, would you change anything?
Yes, I would have started sooner.
What are your plans for your future?
Well, Peter, right now we are very anxious to open our store number 100 by our 10th anniversary, which is 1990. We have 40 stores to go and roughly 2.5 years to go. So with any luck, we'll have achieved that one in the next couple of years. But I have to start looking beyond that. And one of my aspirations now is to take the concept beyond the boundaries of Canada. We have, we're looking at the US market, we're looking at the Japanese market. I'm planning to go to the UK this coming October to see if we can take that concept beyond the boundaries of Canada, and that will truly be a proud day for me.
Where do you figure you would start in the United States?
Right now we are doing some research by visiting various locations in the US. The thing about the US you have to be careful is that it's not one country, it's many, many countries all combined into one. They have geographical, cultural, climatical differences, and one has to be careful in ensuring that one doesn't pick up a climate or such other differences which are different than Canada.
Would you be trying to find somebody who is local from that community?
Yes, very much so.
To become a franchisee?
I think that would be one of the tricks to successfully franchising in the US.
Okay, great. Do you have any suggestions for other people who might want to be entrepreneurs and open a retail store sometime?
Whether one goes into retail stores or any business, Peter, I think certain key things are very important to one's success, and that is perseverance, ability to dream, pursue the dream, and at the same time, once you have achieved your dream and success, to have the humility to accept it. I view success as a gift from God. I'm fortunate that I'm successful. I want to make sure that I share that success with my peers, with my members of my community, and for that matter, people who are less fortunate than I am.
Is the industry growing as a whole?
The population of Canada is not, so by virtue of that one, the industry is not, but there's always more people coming in and more people getting out. It's a constantly turning over, and our business, like most businesses, it's tough to get to the top, and even tougher to stay at the top.
Amin, I'm afraid that we're out of time. Thank you very much for being a guest on
Thank
Careers. We'd like to have your comments. Please write to me, Peter Wolfl, care of Graham Cable 10, 35 Scarlett Road, Toronto, Ontario, M6N 4J8. I'm Peter Wolfl. From all of us here at the studio, good luck in your own career.